tell me if this sounds familiar. An overpowered main character hiding their true power and wanting to live a normal life and not being able to control his power when he rages. It sounds like a very basic story, like we're not going to get much out of that. It's been done 1,000 times. But when I tell you Mob Psycho does this basicness with such great complexity, bro, I mean it. So today we're going to be doing a Mob Psycho review and we'll be reviewing certain elements of the story. In the review we will cover the best character, side character, arc, fight, the most underrated and overrated and least favorite characters of mine, and the strongest in the verse, and just the overall score I would give the anime. We'll start off light with the best fight in the show. And one thing I'll say, bro, Mob has some of the most fun fights to watch. Not best, but some of the most fun. As an honorable mention for the best fight, I have Dimple versus Psycho Helmet. In terms of emotion and depth, this is one of, if not the most important fight in that aspect. With Dimple noticing his true values within the world, he fights to protect the person who gave him what he wanted, and the animation in this fight, bro, it went baloney nuts coconuts. And it was so great to see what God Dimple could do, and a great conclusion to the fight. I loved it. Is this a heart? It is a heart. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. Wait, I feel like there's a pose I could do. Yeah, I loved it. That's fire. That's fire. That's fire. But the actual best fight in the series has literally like no depth and no meaning, I'll be honest. It was just a great ass fight. Shimazaki versus everybody. The pure display of power that Shimazaki imposed over everyone, and the choreography of the fight was amazing. While it's not Naruto level bloody choreography with the you know what I'm saying? It was great nonetheless. And Shimazaki as a character was cool AF, and seeing him fight and like the trash talk he was giving all of them, bro. And then of course Goat Reagan appears and ends the fight just like that. There are definitely other fights within the show that are valid, such as Mob versus Suzuki, Mob running a gauntlet on literally just the entire world, and Mob versus Mogami. But these are the two I have. But low key, I would maybe switch Dimple versus Psycho Helmet for Mob versus... fuck, I forgot his name. Mob versus Suzuki. As for the most underrated character, I think there are a few that don't get enough love, but for the honorable mention, and give me Suzuki. That rhymes. He was more than just an absolute powerhouse, but a man devoid of the capability of relating to people, because in his head, the thing that defined him most was his powers, and when it came to his powers, he was unrivaled. And this was going on for decades up until he met Mob. He even began cheering him on during the fight, and they were both influencing each other because they related so much in the one aspect of which they feel like divided them from everyone else: their raw power. Suzuki decided he would create a new world and rule over it due to him feeling alone, but later develops because of Mob and notices his powers were not the only thing about him, and later on in the series he decides to focus on his family and he has a great ending and blah blah blah. But I think he was a great character with great development, although it wasn't strung out, if you know what I mean. But as for who's actually the most underrated in the show, this would like be such a great pun if I actually meant show because he's a character within the show, but shit, I don't. For me, it's got to be Teru. He was a great character from the very moment that we met him. He saw himself as the star of his own show, but he didn't know that this was Mob Psycho. That was 3 rhymes in a row. That's 4 now. Bloody hell, I'm on fire. Call me Jay the Goat Cole. But anyway, he saw himself as the star of his own show due to his powers, but these ideals that he had slowly got crushed due to him finding out with the thing that he felt like put him above everyone else. There were plenty of people way above him, such as Shigeo Kageyama Mob. This shattered all of his hopes and beliefs and made him into such a great character with great development, with him even humbling other people and telling them, "You're not special, mate, just because of your powers." He's such a great friend and character and tries to help Mob whenever he can, and for me personally, he doubles down as my honorable mention for the best side character. But as for who the actual best side character is, I gots to give it to Dimple. I wish I was from New York a bit. I'm walking over here. If you're from New York, bro, hit me up. Don't know why, just do it. Now, Dimple was a cuck at times, but Dimple was also clutch AF when he was needed most, and this is nothing but factual at the end of the day. Dimple probably has like top 3 most goated moments when it comes to like character moments within the show, with him always saving Mob in the very few rare occasions he needed it, helping Reagan in his pursuit of Mob, leading Mob emotionally and through life, and most importantly, sacrificing himself for Mob and having such a heartbreaking goodbye. Dimple did seem to have a bit of malicious intent and a very flippant god complex, but that was the furthest thing from his best character traits and moments. We meet Dimple and we think he's going to be just some sort of clown bro, and to some extent he is, but then he starts hanging around with Mob and becomes even a mini mentor for him and even Ritsu to a degree. And he dropped us some real gaming wisdom, bro, and yeah, he plots here and there, but overall he's a cool and reliable character until season 3. When he reveals his plan, and me personally, bro, I was just thinking, yeah, fuck this guy, I'm done. Because once you switch sides, it's over. If you get the reference, you get the reference. But after Dimple does his grand reveal of his plans, Mob drops the most concise and accurate character analysis on God Dimple. And it turns out his God complex was simply a ploy to get himself attention and be seen. Because above all else, he was alone, and his endeavor to become a god was simply a smokescreen to be recognized by other people, and this led him to recognize his true friend in Mob because he gave him everything that he wanted. I don't know why I was like speaking like a numbnut, whatever that means. And for Dimple, who noticed that being a god wasn't all that he thought it would be, that was enough for him. Mob was enough for him. As for overrated and least favorite, I honestly just don't have a pick. Every character plays their role greatly, and there's no characters I dislike or just feel are overrated. But if I had to pick one, I'll probably go with that masked Esper from season 1 that Reagan dog stomped. I don't think they're overrated, but I just like, I don't like their attitude, bro. Like, get away from me. But the strongest in the verse, no brainer. I feel like there's a song, something about a no brainer. I know there's a bar about it, about a girl that doesn't give head, she's a no-brainer. But the number 3 spot, I have to give it to Suzuki. With him having so much power, even Mob struggled massively to harness it, and was able to fight evenly with Mob at 100%, even though he was using 10% of his power.
I remember like hand dancing, bro. Hand dancing. It's like, I feel like this is what like Transformers look like.
I'm deviating so hard right now because I'm so hard right now. But all the power he was using against Mob, he had stored that up for 30 bloody years. But in the end he failed and ended up being a Mob victim, even though I wouldn't say he was a victim, to be fair, because I don't know, it was just like he lost because of plot sort of, but then also because of Mob, so it was just like, I'm still gonna call him a victim though. And then later on in the show, when Mob was raging the F out, he couldn't do anything, bro, and the nigga ran away.
She's a runner, she's a track star. She gon' run away when it gets hard.
Then at number 2, give me God Dimple. With Dimple himself stating he's more powerful than any of Mob's opponents in the past, and his power deriving from all of the people within the city, and being able to beat Psycho Helmet despite him losing power progressively throughout the fight. And despite all of these buffs that Dimple had, bro, he still had to wait for Mob to have some of his power drained for him to show up in front of him out of fear. Even when Dimple had revealed himself, he had underestimated how much power Mob had actually had. And this just speaks for how powerful Mob is, so of course Mob at number 1. Now we have the 2 most important things in my opinion, the best arc and the best character. Let's go with... Bing, 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 bing. For an honorable mention, I have the absolute GOAT, Reagan. The reason he wasn't mentioned with the best side characters is because I see him as more of a antagonist. I don't know if anyone else sees him like that, but that's how I see him. That's what he identifies as. But Reagan was an exceptional character and sensei. Reagan was nothing more than a fraud, but that's partially why we as an audience liked him so much. His attempted acts of wisdom were always low-key just so right, bro. Reagan often projected his insecurity as well of himself onto Mob, with an example of this being in season 2, with Reagan saying to Mob that his friends are just using him, despite all them wanting was Mob to be present, and instead he was the one that was using Mob. And in this very same episode, Reagan tries to make Mob think that he's alone without him. And with Mob ignoring Reagan, the truth is shown, and the fact is, Reagan is alone without Mob. Reagan is most definitely my favorite sensei in anime. with him being a great figure to teach Mob not how to develop his powers but instead develop as a character, with the conclusion of the series breaking into his character even more and breaking me into near tears. I wasn't crying because I'm like, I'm a man and shit, bro, like come on. But I was like, my eyes were watering. I don't know if it was the jalapenos or the onions or the what's, but my eyes were watering. And with him laying himself bare in front of Mob and letting Mob know he's not the only one suppressing a different person within him, making him such a perfect sensei to teach Mob since they relate to each other so much, bro. Top tier character. Don't know why I'm doing this. This is swearing as well, isn't it? It's great. I do this for peace, bro, but this is swearing. And I think everyone else does this as well. Maybe they do this. Fuck that. That's like, you know how much effort goes into, instead of just going boom, you have to turn around your hand and your whole arm to do this, bro. Opposed to just doing this, like, this isn't swearing, bro. What does this even mean? I feel like it's different. If you go like from the side, that's peace. If you go, oh, like that, if you go up, that's swearing. That's fair. That's fair AF, bro. But my favorite character in the show was Mob. In terms of like shonen main characters, I failed to think of more than 2 other main characters that have such development and depth as a character. And he's such an underrated main character, with Mob being scared of his own capabilities due to him hurting his brother in the past. He decides to suppress his powers and live normally, as he doesn't view his powers as something that make him special, unlike other characters within the show such as Teru and Suzuki. They embraced and loved their powers too much. Mob resented his powers to a degree and cast them away. While this makes Mob look like the wise guy of this series when he's compared to his foils in other characters like Teru and Suzuki, they are extreme cases of this. One thing people say about Mob is that he's a blank character, and if people actually say this to you, I hate saying this because it makes you just seem like some nerd, but they genuinely just don't understand his character. Yes, Mob is bland to a degree as a character, but it's with complete purpose. His powers are strengthened through his emotions, and by simply holding in his emotions, he's also holding back his powers. Hence why he seemed so emotionless, and the purpose of the counter showing when he was about to reach 100%. This amplifies the significance of the scene where Mob is getting sad due to people calling him empty on the inside, despite others not knowing what he was going through. And in this very same scene, he used his powers to display that he was not, because that's where his emotions lie. And then lastly, we have arguably the best self-acceptance in shonen, with the final episode of Mob Psycho. Mob always told others like Teru and Suzuki they shouldn't think they were special because of their powers, but they were extreme cases of loving their powers. Mob failed to acknowledge that his powers were a part of him, and by suppressing them, he's suppressing a chunk of himself. This is shown with the rampage Mob goes on at the end of season 3, with that side of Mob being controlled by his powers and it heading to Saboni. This could have been because when they were kids, Saboni was the person that acknowledged this side of Mob the most. So they were striving for the same recognition of which they had been neglected from near enough Mob's entire life, because he hated them. And then Reagan enters and tells Mob to accept himself through a display of his own internal conflicts, and he does. But lastly, we have the best arc and the overall rating I would give the show. One of the 2 best arcs in the show, in my not so professional opinion, the world domination arc. This season as a whole was a bit lackluster for me, but it definitely had some good moments. But overall, it was quite easily the worst season. But the peak of the world domination arc was amazing. Seeing an all-out Esper war and the true extent of Mob's power, and this arc has a great conclusion, fights and characters, with the Mob Psychoverse expanding massively. For me, it's up there, bro. I do think you could swap a few arcs, but I think this is a safe pick. Is it? I don't know. I guess I'll hear about it in the comments. But the best arc is most definitely the question mark arc. This arc came as pure shock as we saw Mob get hammered by a car and instantly started ravaging his own city and running a gauntlet against his own verse, and winning at that, and having a much overdue conversation with himself. And the conclusion of the arc was nothing short of art. And instead of Mob getting the girl at the end of the arc, he didn't, and allowed for us to see how far his character had come, with him showing his emotions without raging for one of the first times. And then we add on the confession of Reagan, bro, and the reappearance of a bunch of character favorites and shit, bro. This arc was honestly like 9. Fuck that shit, bro. That shit was a 10. I was gonna say 9 so people wouldn't clown me for this shit, but it's a 10 out of 10. And honestly, that's a top 5 ending I've seen personally of any anime. That's all I can say to you. Overall, I give this anime an 8.5. The first season was very good and gave us everything we needed in terms of introductions and getting us into the show, with the introduction of the Scars and the other Espers and seeing how Mob matches up to them, and everyone developing around Mob and Mob himself developing with his internal crisis. And the final arc of season 1 was another great arc that I'd give around 8 to 10 out of 10. But then this is where I think people be like, you're overrating Mob, but who cares? But the first half of that second season, bro, complete dog. Absolute dog wash water. There was a few good moments in it, like the Mogami arc, but even that, bro, I'm not gonna lie, nigga, I was asleep. It was very mediocre, but was just about made up for with the world domination arc at the ending of that season. Don't know why I was thinking of which season it was. So for me, that brought the season to a 6.5 to 7 out of 10, somewhere in that territory. And then watching the first episode of season 3, bro, I was like, yeah, this show's fallen off. It's not that good anymore, blah, blah, blah. And then I watched the rest of the season, bro. Oh my, how I was wrong. With even the most random episodes of season 3 bringing such great quality to the show and having 2 stunning arcs with the Psycho Helmet arc and the question mark arc, it makes up and more for the lackluster first half of the second season, even though it had already been made up for. But you get the point. For me personally, bro, that season as a whole was a 9 out of 10 with a 2 10 out of 10 arcs right next to each other with the Psycho Helmet question mark arc. So somewhere like along the line, the median score for the show does end up to an 8.5 or somewhere around that, I hope. So I don't want people to pop out in the comments
And be like, so you thought it was a 6.5, and then it was an 8, and then it was a 9 or a 10, and then that adds up to 6.7, 8, 9, 10, pi squared plus triple the, I don't know what I'm saying, but you get the point.
somewhere along the line, bro. The median score's at 8.5. If it's not, I don't care. This shit is an 8.5. Or 8 to 8.5 out of 10. 7.75 to 8.5 out of 10. 7.75 to 8 out of 10. But Mob Psycho is an anime filled with great character journeys and development, and not just from the main character but all of the cast, with great and fun fights to watch and a very enjoyable cast, and honestly my favourite art style in all of anime. Is it the art style, or is it like the animation style? One of the two, bro. One of those two. That's my favourite one in all of anime. Not saying the best, just my favourite. I think this anime is one that everyone should watch, even though I know a lot of people either hate or love it. I personally love it. I love it so much. I haven't got a poster up there. I can't be able to show you, but follow for more algorithm bullshit. Subscribe, like, comment. Comment any animes you want me to review next, and peace.